Hello everybody and welcome to Channel 2S. I'm Second Soundwave and today we are looking at the high-grade Iron-Blooded Orphans Schwalbe Graze McGillis Custom. This is one of the newest 1/144th kits to be released in the line. At least when I ordered it, there have been a couple more since then. There's been the Graze Kai, the Hayakurin, the Hayakuri. They've been just really cranking out the kits with this line, which is fine because it's an awesome show and it's got some cool kits. Now, looking at the box art here, we got a new design I'm not a super big fan of. Like, I liked the older box art where it was like one solid picture, but they kind of did something different with Iron-Blooded Orphans. It's almost more like Age, where it kind of fades out to white here on the side. Got the name vertically written, which is interesting because that's how Japanese is traditionally written, but most Gundam logos are done left to right, side to side, which is kind of odd and it's interesting because also the name's written in Japanese in big letters and then in English in small letters, where again it's usually the reverse. Got a picture of the guy's face there. Again, not a fan of that because it kind of makes this look like a big collage of stuff instead of one fluid image. Got some pictures of the kit here on the bottom, and then some more pictures of it up here at the top. Think about the pilot, usual stuff. You've seen this a million times. Literally every Gundam box is like that. Let's move on to the actual kit. One thing that's new about the high-grade Iron-Blooded Orphans lines is so far all of the kits have a full inner frame. This includes the Schwalbe Graze. As you can see, it doesn't have framework for the feet or the head, but everything else has a nice frame here. And it actually only uses a few polycaps. And they came up with some good clever ways to get around that. Like on these swivels here, there's a little groove right along there and a little catching mechanism in there, so it kind of clips it on and keeps them from dropping off like they did on some of the earlier All Gundam Project kits. Same thing with the leg. You actually can't pull this leg off unless you twist it back, because there's a little, I don't know if you can see, if there's a little tab right there by my thumbnail, so you have to slide that into the slot and then turn it, and that locks the leg on. A really good design that helps make the figure that much sturdier. And so far, judging by the frame, this is going to be a very poseable kit. One minor modification I did, not really modification, but this light gray part here, there's supposed to be a yellow sticker covering it, but since it's already light gray, I just thought it looked really nice, and there was like no point in ruining it by putting a yellow sticker over it, so I'm just going to leave it gray. However, I did put the yellow stickers in the front, and from what I can see, those are pretty much the biggest stickers in the kit. The rest of it just some little stuff for the head and like a couple little black ones for the shoulders. So, let's get this all built up and see how it looks. So here we have the Schwalbe Graze out of its packaging, and as you can see, it is pretty darn cool. Now, it is a little sticker heavy. I wouldn't say sticker heavy, well, like, it's medium stickering. Like, there's some stuff that I kind of wish wasn't stickers. Those little yellow stripes on his chest are stickers. The black and gray sections on his shoulder are stickers. They're the same parts from the back. Supposed to be a yellow stripe going down his back, but there was light gray plastic there anyway, and I thought it would be kind of a waste to sticker over that. If you've seen Mecha Guy Kochu's review of this, you know what I'm talking about, where he kind of brought that up a bit. But yeah, also the yellow on the face is stickers, and that's kind of understandable, but those were actually my least favorite stickers to put on. I really wasn't a fan of the way they worked. But yeah, detailing on this figure, as you can see, it's a little fiddly and flimsy because there's not a lot of polycaps in this. I think the waist's a polycap. One of these like 4 shoulder joints has a polycap, and I think there's like a polycap in, no, I don't even think there's the only polycap in the arm is in the shoulder. There's a waist polycap, and then there's hip polycaps. Everything else, as far as I recall, actually nope, I stand corrected, there's an ankle polycap, but most of this is just plastic, and it's kind of, it makes them kind of like loose and fiddly. So you have to be a little more, you have to take your time when you're building this. I can definitely see these back sections loosening up over time. They're just like plastic ball joint sections, but overall, not too bad. So dropping down a bit here to look at the legs, you can see that they are a little interesting. I mean, they've got kind of a funky shape to them. They got these cool kind of hip skirt sections here, and then another hip skirt up here. Kind of an odd design choice, but I dig it. I mean, it's pretty neat. His feet are a bit problematic since they're like kind of a high heel design, but they don't restrict articulation too much, and if you're careful and you kind of take your time and you pose it right, you can actually get some good poses out of this guy. The backpack on this figure is pretty basic. We got some solitary flaps back here and a little engine, and then we got these parts here that move all around. Yeah, so basically this is just a Graze with just like thrusters everywhere. Pretty nice little upgrade, definitely my favorite version of the Graze they've done so far. Probably the most interesting weapon on this kit is the grappling hook. It does have a pair of little toothbrush bristles or whatever they call those little nubs that I'm probably going to trim off at some point, but that's just so you don't stab yourself on it. You can pull this off. You get a short little wire section that plugs in between these. It's not very strong though, it's kind of limp. And then you can actually take this section and pop it off and then reattach it up here so it's kind of forwards and ahead of his hand, which I think you're supposed to do when you're using this like a claw weapon. So if you just kind of tab this in and then rotate it out, it kind of extends it out past his hand and makes a nice little weapon. Then on the other arm we got this whole like 3 or 4 part rifle assembly where it's got these parts that clip around the side, a piece that goes underneath. Basically the whole gun is kind of built around his arm. And it's a pretty cool design. It's got a nice little side handle here that moves. It's got a lot of nice detail, definitely something worth panel lining. Only thing that I've noticed, and you kind of can see this here, is that the waist on this guy is a little loose, and really just the joints in general I find kind of tend to deteriorate fairly quickly, which is a bit of a shame. They could have solved that pretty easily by using more polycaps, but, you know, it was like, what, like an 800 yen kit, so that's understandable at this price point. You also get a super basic little axe weapon here. It's just a one-piece affair. It's nothing really special. You got a little couple pegs on the side, and there's little holes in the side skirts, so if you want to store your axe there, it will get in the way of basically everything, but you can do it. It's just a nice little melee weapon they threw in, so you have some more sort of melee weapon options. So let's see what we got here for articulation on the Schwalbe Graze. Start off, the back sections here are on ball joints, so they have a little bit of wiggle and they have a lot up and down. These thrusters can move around as well for lots of in-space maneuverability. The entire backpack section does not move, it's just fixed on here. The head rotates around on ball joints, fairly limited, but you can still get some pretty cool expressive poses out of this guy. Something I'm not really sure if it's articulation or a gimmick, but you're supposed to be able to kind of tip this up. It's not really on a hinge, you just kind of reconnect the tab and then like push it down and it forms like a kind of head cannon. I can't say I'm really a fan of it, but it is pretty decent. Torso's got a couple joints, so you got like lots of side to side and rotating movement. Everything kind of moves around, but if you move it too much you will just kind of tear the figure apart, which is understandable and kind of to be expected, but it's still a bit of a shame that they couldn't have made it a little more sturdy. There's some front and back movement here, and then there's front and back movement at the ball joint, so you can get quite a nice forward shoulder movement and a bit of forward backwards shoulder throw as well. There's a, just going to take that off for a second, there's a hinge at the shoulder, and then there's another hinge higher up on the shoulder. When you have the shoulder pad actually attached, I'm not sure if that hinders it at all. Let's see. No, not too bad, so you can get it up to about there. And then you have a swivel, and then a single jointed elbow, and then a ball jointed wrist, like you'd pretty much expect on a high grade. Moving down here to the legs, you have these pieces which rotate, and then you have the hip skirts which are on the All Gundam Project style kind of double swivel. So you got hip movement here. It only comes up to here because these weird front flaps don't move at all. Back flaps don't move either, so that's about the leg swing you're getting. For outward, the main issue is going to be these. You can remove them, so if you want to pull that off, you're going to have a big ugly peg there, but you can get the leg a little bit higher, although not a lot, because that's about where the joint stops. So these really don't end up hindering the articulation too much, since that's already more or less the stopping point. And you can see there, I almost just popped this torso off a little bit, because it's not super stable. Underneath here, if I can get a good shot of it, the knee has a double bend mechanism that's quite nice. Gives you a nice good 90, well, way more than a 90, like a 180 really. And then you actually got an okay amount of leg movement. Like there's a lot of side-to-side swivel on this, especially if you kind of pull out the peg a bit. So as you can see, ankle movement isn't really a hindering thing. The guard moves, it doesn't really get out of the way, it kind of just wiggles around and falls off. But overall it's a fairly sturdy mechanism. Doesn't really hinder the articulation too badly. I mean, you can still get some decent poses if you take a little bit of time. So So as you can see here, I got it up in the air on a display stand. I have to say, this mobile suit looks really nice once you get it in the air. It's got a great design. It just looks very fast, very dynamic, very mobile. I just out of curiosity, I stripped off all the extra armor from the gun. You can't use just a basic rifle. You just kind of pull off the side and back parts, and it kind of forms like a more slimmer rifle that's easier to take in and out of his hand. I took off the little grappling hook thing, gave him his axe. I just say I really like this kit. It certainly has its problems. I think they could have made it a little sturdier, but for a kit that costs quite a bit less than $10, I really can't find much to complain about. I mean, for its price point, for a high grade, and just for anything really of this price point, it's a pretty solid kit. Anyway, I'm Second Soundwave, and before I say goodbye, I'd just like to mention that I have a brand new show on my gaming channel, 2S Gaming, called Language Barrier. I just play weird Japanese and other foreign games, and I just thought I'd put a little quick plug here for that at the end, because it's a pretty cool series that has almost no viewership currently. So yeah, go check that out when you're done watching this, and I will see you next time.